The German philosopher Nietzsche somewhat harshly criticized Christianity as a slave morality. By this, he meant in part that it was an ethical system that the slaves of society imposed on their masters. The new religion had a broad appeal to the people in society who were oppressed and disenfranchised: women, the poor, slaves, and so forth. Jesus' message offered them a degree of comfort despite their oppressed condition. His inversion of the traditional value system seemed to elevate them to a higher status than the one they were familiar with, while it relegated their oppressors to a lower one. It consoled them in their mundane suffering with the promise of the illusion of heaven where they would be compensated. Nietzsche argued that the Christian worldview played to the resentment of the oppressed members of society and gave them the hope that despite their apparent lowly condition, in fact, they were the righteous ones, and those who oppressed them, the wicked, who would one day be punished. It's not hard to understand why this would seem appealing to many people in a humble and downcast condition. Nietzsche's criticism is that the Christian ethic amounts to an inversion of the natural order of things, and in many ways he can be seen to take up again the might makes right arguments of Callicles from Plato's Gorgias and others whom we've studied. Nietzsche argues that it's natural and good that the strong exercise their power, which means oppressing the weak. But the strong are outnumbered by the weak, and with the historical development of Christianity, the majority, that is the weak, win out. They manage to impose a new ethic and value system that is advantageous to themselves. According to the new ethic, it's a bad thing for the strong to oppress the weak. The strong should feel bad about doing so, since this contradicts the new ethical principles of love, humility, and forgiveness. There thus arises the principle of a guilty conscience. Strong people feel bad inwardly when they do harm to others. Their guilty conscience is an inward reflection of the outward social criticism that they receive from everyone else who happen to be weak. This guilty conscience prevents them from exercising their natural superiority over others. For Nietzsche, this created an unnatural situation that led to forms of spiritual and psychological disorder, which he believes has created a cultural crisis in the Europe of his day. Instead of strong people being able to exercise their power freely, they are made to repress it. They're thus inwardly at odds with themselves and their natural drives. This means that the weak can flourish, but it destroys the strong. He uses many different metaphors for sickness to describe this situation. Nietzsche's view continues to rely on the ancient Greek conception of what is natural. The idea is that nature has created human beings like animals, and that this involves natural ways of interacting, namely those according to which the strong oppress the weak. But this fails to understand the element of humanity that transcends the natural. As children grow to adulthood, they learn to control their immediate aggressive instincts that they have received from nature. No one thinks that it would be better for them to remain in the condition where they are the slaves of such instincts. One can see the sad results of such cases in feral children who grew up in isolation with no human contact or guidance. Such children are unable to control their immediate impulses and are difficult to socialize. It would be absurd to claim that a feral child should be the model for a natural form of human ethical relations. Clearly, nature has created humans to live together and to raise their children so that they learn to control their natural element in themselves. This is what makes not only civilization possible, but also individual growth and development. Humans are able to achieve higher things because of their ability to control their natural impulses and drives. The ability to control the natural instincts is precisely what separates us from the animals and what makes us human. It's a sign of something higher in the human spirit. By identifying things such as love, reconciliation, and forgiveness, Jesus is focusing on and developing this higher human principle. This higher conception of humans that allows us to live together in communities and cultivate our abilities is what is natural for human development, and not to live in a state of nature like the animals.